Hello my dear students and welcome back to Excellence Batch, and I am your Diksha ma'am. So here we have reached up to the last lecture of the chapter Human Reproduction. So in the previous class we have discussed about the pregnancy, gestation, embryonic development. So today we are going to move further because the baby has been formed. Now it's time that the baby should come outside in this world and start crying, right? So yes, you must have guessed it, we are going to talk about childbirth. But before starting the topic, let's discuss some questions. So you have to answer actually these questions and you have to score yourself, and this will tell how much have you studied and revised the previous topic. So one homework that I have given you, that you need to find out the gestation period of elephant, cat and dog. That's the first question. Second, what is the first sign of growing fetus? Next, the first movement of fetus is seen in which week? Chorion, week or month you can write in that. Chorion is made up of which germ layers or which layers, right? Hormones secreted by placenta. So you have to tell all the hormones which are secreted by placenta. Now, first, elephant has the gestation period of 607 to 641 days. Cat have around 50 to 65 days gestation period, and dog have around 60 to 65 days gestation period. So like in humans, the gestation period is around 9 months, right? So you can see elephant has a number of days, right? Okay. First sign of growing fetus is seen through the heartbeat. If the heartbeat is there in the fetus, that means the fetus is healthy, the fetus is growing. If the heartbeat is not seen up to some weeks, it is said that the fetus is not healthy, right? Then first movement of the fetus is at 5th month. Also at this time the fetus will develop the hair on the head. Chorion is made up of two layers, the outer trophoblast, which is equivalent to ectoderm, and mesoderm. And what's the role of chorion? Chorion was making chorionic villi, that was forming the fetal part of placenta. Next, hormones which are secreted by placenta. First of all, estrogen, progesterone, they are also secreted by the ovary. Then HCG, human chorionic gonadotropin hormone, that mimics LH. Then HPL, human placental lactogen, and apart from this it also secretes the hormone known as HCS, human chorionic somatomamotropin, which we will be discussing today also. Alright, okay, somatomamotropin. So, we will be talking about this hormone today in lactation, okay. Alright. Now, tell me your score. So, how many questions are there? 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. You have to tell me the score out of 5. Alright. So, let's move further and talk about the parturition. Parturition is also known as delivery of baby. Let me change the color, might be this is not visible to you. Delivery of baby, and also commonly known as childbirth. Childbirth. Alright, so pregnancy is going on, the pregnancy is for 9 months. Now, suddenly after 9 months the baby comes out. How is it possible? What are those factors that are leading to the, who tells baby to come out, or who tells the female's body that the baby is moving down and the baby is moving out, right? So, it's again a complex mechanism. Our body is very beautifully designed by the nature that everything is controlled by some hormones in neuron. That's why we always use the name coordination. If you know the 11th standards chapter, it's neural control and coordination, chemical control and integration. So in a way, something is controlling our body, and that is neurons and chemicals, right? That's why we also have named the chapter like that. Now, so how does this entire so complex and beautiful and a very wonderful process of nature takes place? So two things, as I've told you, neurons and hormones are involved. So we say this mechanism is a neuroendocrine mechanism. Neuroendocrine means neurons will be involved and obviously the hormones will be involved, because female's body is entirely, whether she is pregnant and even if she is not pregnant, both the times the female's body runs through hormones, right. So in pregnancy, hormones plays a wonderful role here. So here neurons and endocrine, that means hormones, both are performing a very important role. Now let's see how does parturition occur. So when the female reached 9th month of pregnancy, that means at the end of 9th month, the baby moves down, the baby's head moves down, the baby changes its position. Earlier, for example, this is the womb of the mother, the baby's head was here, right, but at the end of the pregnancy, the baby's head will move down. Here the head will move down. This is the entire body. Okay, here we have cervix. Now the baby is fully formed. The baby is fully formed. When a baby is fully formed, it started doing a lot of movements, and when the movements increase, with the help of neuron, this impulse is given to the mother's pituitary gland. You don't understand? No problem. Imagine the female has reached at the end of the 9th month. The baby's head will move down. When the baby's head move down, it's a kind of a lot movement. The baby is doing a lot of movement at the 5th month also. But this movement is quite huge, and this movement will give a neuronal reflex to the mother's brain. And what part of the brain? The pituitary of the brain, of the mother's brain. Fine. So when the baby's head move down and baby is fully formed, baby or fetus is fully formed. I am also writing fetus here because the correct term to use here is fetus. Okay, is fully formed. At that point, it will give reflex to mother's posterior pituitary. Which pituitary? Posterior pituitary. Okay. Now, mother's posterior pituitary is getting this impulse. Okay. Now, what mother's posterior pituitary will do? Now, this is a mother's reflex now. The mother's posterior pituitary will start producing oxytocin. It will start not producing, releasing. Oxytocin hormone will be released. Alright. Now the oxytocin hormone is released. I am just doing it right here now. I am erasing this one. Yes. Once the oxytocin is released, what's the role of oxytocin? Oxytocin has a role that it always works on muscles. What does it works on? Muscles. Okay. So mother's uterine wall has myometrium. What does it have? Myometrium. Imagine this is mother's uterus. This is the placenta here where the baby is attached, and this wall is myometrium. Okay, this is myometrium. Now, what happened at the end of the pregnancy or at the end of the 9th month? The ratio of hormones changes. The estrogen to progesterone ratio increases. That means I would like to say the progesterone is lower and estrogen is higher. Throughout pregnancy, the level of progesterone is higher than the estrogen, but in the last phase of pregnancy, the estrogen increases and progesterone decreases. Okay, so due to change of this ratio, the estrogen will start producing oxytocin receptors on the myometrium's smooth muscles. You get this? When the estrogen level rises in the end month of pregnancy, the mother's myometrium, which has smooth muscle, on that smooth muscle, estrogen, because estrogen is higher, it will start producing oxytocin receptors. Because it is a hormone, and hormone always bind to the receptor. imagine there are no oxytocin receptors on the myometrium. This is myometrium, right? Imagine there is no oxytocin receptor on myometrium. Even if the oxytocin is present, the muscle will not contract. Okay. Now, we need, though receptors, few receptors are present, but we need more receptors. So, the number of receptors at the end of the month of pregnancy increases due to high level of estrogen. Now, when the baby gets fully developed, it will give reflex to the mother's posterior pituitary. Now, mother's posterior pituitary will release oxytocin. Now, this oxytocin, it will contract muscles. Which muscle? Smooth muscles. Contract smooth muscles of myometrium. But the contraction is not so strong at first. The female will start feeling the contractions, but they are not so strong. When the contraction of smooth muscle increases, or we can say, imagine this is the first contraction. This first contraction will give positive feedback to mother's posterior pituitary. Mother's posterior pituitary. So, a kind of feedback mechanism starts here. Now, mother's posterior pituitary will release more oxytocin. So, this will keep on happening. This will keep on happening until she feels a lot of pain, because whenever the muscle contracts, she will feel the pain. Okay, that's known as labor pain. So, what's going on here is, when the baby has moved down its head, it has given a reflex to the mother's pituitary. It will secrete oxytocin. Oxytocin will cause muscle contraction, and muscle contraction in return will again stimulate the mother's pituitary. So, this cycle will go on. It will keep on moving and moving and moving. Okay, for example, she got first contraction, that will increases more release of oxytocin. Oxytocin, what it will do? Contraction. Again, it will keep on doing and doing. So, kind of a positive feedback will run throughout the phases of parturition until she has a lot of strong contraction that the baby will move out, right? So, these are certain changes that occurs during kind of parturition. So, we say that parturition is kind of a reflex, because baby is giving a reflex action. When the baby gave the stimulus, in return an action is done. Just like that, when you touch a hot plate, your hand moves away. That's a reflex. So, you gave something and it comes back, right? So, similarly here also, when the baby gives stimulus, in return oxytocin is released. So, it's a kind of a reflex. So, we use the word for it as fetal ejection reflex. So, all that I have made you understand, it's a kind of a reflex where one action leads to the other action. So, it's a kind of a reflex. So, fetal ejection reflex always need stimulus from both fetus and mother. So, always stimulus comes from fetus. How fetus is giving this stimulus? By moving, and how mother is giving? By releasing oxytocin, right? So, and always remember, the oxytocin is released from mother's pituitary, not the fetus pituitary. Clear? Right? Let me explain you one more time. So, for example, here the estrogen progesterone ratio has increased at the end of the pregnancy, and also baby has moved down. Now, baby will give a stimulus to the mother's pituitary, which will in return start secreting oxytocin. Now, the oxytocin amount is very low, but this low amount will cause a little smooth muscle contraction of myometrium. When the myometrium muscle will contract, it will work as a stimulus from mother to the pituitary. So, this is the stimulus from the mother, the contraction of muscle, and the stimulus from the fetus is the movement of fetus. Okay. When the mother get the positive feedback from the pituitary, it will secrete oxytocin, and then there will be more vigorous contraction. Now, what's the role of estrogen in the last phase of pregnancy? It will form oxytocin receptor on myometrium muscle, so that the oxytocin can bind to them and cause the muscle contraction. So, this is how the fetal ejection reflex work, and the stimulus of fetal ejection I have written rejection. I'm so sorry. Fetus is not rejected. Right. So, fetus ejection reflex got the stimulus both from fetus as well as mother. Right. Please excuse me for writing rejection. Anyways, so this is how parturition occurs. Now, there are 3 phases of parturition. It's not like the contraction is going on and the baby will move out in one go. No. This all occurs, or we can say the entire parturition process has been divided into 3 phases. So, the first phase is the phase of dilation, Second phase is the expulsion phase, and the last one is afterbirth. Right. So, what happened in the phase of dilation? The cervix gets dilated, because if the cervix gets dilated, then it's a kind of a go for a doctor and mother that the cervix has been dilated. It's a sign that soon you will get the labor, right? So, there is always doctor will ask to come again and again in the last month of pregnancy to see how much cervix is dilated. So, they start measuring the diameter of cervix. So, there is, when the largest diameter is received, they ask the mother to be aware that she will anytime will get the labor. Labor is that pain due to contraction, right? So, in the first phase of dilation, the parturition, in dilation phase the cervix will be dilated. This phase can move up to around 14 to 16 hours, right? So, what happened in this phase? This all has started. The fetus will get reflex and oxytocin level is rising. Contraction, more oxytocin, contraction, more oxytocin. So, she started getting labor pain. Labor pain starts, but not much vigorous. It is like building up. It's not like she'll get the labor pain at once. It builds up. Why? Because it's a positive feedback. Little oxytocin, contraction. More contraction, more oxytocin, more contraction. So, it's like, it's kind of a cycle, right? Now, so she is admitted at this particular phase, right? Now, next phase will come when the labor pain is so much, she has she has just ended up in that stage where the baby is going to move out, and that's a phase of expulsion. This is for around 30 minutes. Here the baby comes out of vagina, right? So, once the baby moves out, you have seen in the movies, there is a cord known as umbilical cord, which is usually cut, right? And the baby's umbilical cord is not tied up, and that's on the navel of the baby, right? And the baby is then given to the mother or so, and washed up, and everything is done. What about the mother? After that, the work of the mother is not finished yet. There is a huge placenta present inside the mother's body. There is a huge placenta present inside the mother's womb or uterus. Next comes the stage of afterbirth, where that placenta is removed from the uterus of the female. You hear it right? It is removed from the uterus of the female. So, in afterbirth, the placenta is taken out. Let me show you how does it look like from mother's uterus. Right. So, this is how in 3 phases the parturition takes place, the beautiful mechanism of nature where a baby is born, a baby is a bundle of joy of everyone's life. So, this is not that easy as it look like. So, that's why it is always said that females are more stronger than males. I am not getting feminist here. Alright. Okay, let us see how does it looks like. So, this is a placenta, this is the umbilical cord, this is the baby. So, umbilical cord is cut from here and it is tied with some, I don't know what material they have because I am not a doctor, and this is the placenta, right, and this is taken from the mother's body in after birth, right. So, that is about parturition. Now, the baby, congratulations, the baby is born. After so many lectures, the baby is born. So, now the baby is out in the world. Whenever there is a guest in the house, what do? You ask them water, you ask them to have some tea, coffee or some beverage. So the baby is there, you also want them to feed. Then what is their feed? They are not that demanding, right? What do they drink? They drink only their mother's milk, right? So that's about lactation. Lactation is like producing milk and feeding that to the baby, right? So this lactation word, as it seems, it's okay, it might be simple, it's also not simple. It's also some neuronal and hormonal mechanism involved, right? So whenever the baby is born, the level of oxytocin is very higher. Also the level of prolactin is higher at that time. The level of prolactin increases during 5th week of pregnancy, and during the end of the pregnancy, a female have around 10 to 20 times more prolactin than a non-pregnant female. Yes, so she has around 10 to 20 times more prolactin. Now, what's the role of prolactin? Prolactin is the hormone that will ask the alveoli to produce milk. So the hormone that I have told you in the question, HCS, that also solve the same purpose. So HCS is secreted by placenta, and also prolactin. Both they are working together to produce the milk before the birth of the baby. So when a female is at the end stages of pregnancy, she has produced some milk in her alveoli, right? And that's the first milk that come out from the mother's breast, and it is little different from the milk that comes out later. So let's talk about everything. Okay, so first of all, hormones plays a very important role. The hormone which is prolactin and HCS, they help in milk production. Okay, prolactin is present both before and after the parturition. HCS is only present during gestation, and this one is present during gestation as well as after childbirth. Even after childbirth, prolactin is the one that plays a very important role in the milk production. Okay, so we have this hormone prolactin that helps in milk production. So the first milk that comes out is known as colostrum. It's very important for the newborn baby. A mother should definitely feed her baby with her milk, because this is very important. This milk is very important, the first milk. The colostrum is yellow in color. It is rich in calories because it has proteins and lactose sugar, but it has no fat. And a very important thing it has is IgA antibodies, because baby is new to the world. The baby has not produced its immunity, because most of the immunity is formed when you encounter with the pathogens, right? So mother is already adult, she has immunity. So baby is new to the world, baby doesn't know the cruel bacteria and viruses of the world. So baby needs immunity. So the baby will get immunity through the mother's milk. So this will provide a kind of a passive immunity. Passive immunity is immunity in which ready-made antibodies are given to a person, right? For example, if a person has recovered from COVID, so its blood or we can say its plasma is given to the person who is not recovering. Why? Because the person who has recovered, it has produced antibodies. So the purpose to give the plasma is, we will take the antibodies and give it to the person who is not recovering. So the person is not producing antibody on its own, but the one who has recovered has produced its own antibodies, right? So this is how it gives passive immunity. The detail of passive immunity will also be discussing in human health and diseases. Apart from that, there is one more antibody, IgG. This can pass placenta. This can pass placenta. So this also goes from mother to fetus as passive immunity. As passive immunity. Okay. Another thing, the after milk is white in color. It is not rich in protein, and it has very low quantity of or no IG antibody at all, right? So mother, if she is feeding baby for around so much months and not giving anything else, that's not good. So when she is producing milk, after milk the baby is also given some other food so that it can build its body, because protein is very much important. But after milk, which is white in color, it is not rich in proteins, right? So it's low in protein. Okay, though it has lactose, sugar, it has fat, it is rich in fat, but it is low in protein and low in IgA. Alright, now how does the milk is produced and how does milk comes out? So milk production is due to the hormone prolactin. Milk production is due to the hormone prolactin. Okay, but what about milk let down? What about milk let down? How does it occur? Let's see. Imagine these are the mammary glands of the mother. This is a nipple. These are the alveoli. Okay. And here we have the entire duct system. This is ampulla, this is lactiferous duct. And these ducts, as I have told you in the mammary gland structure, they are surrounded by these muscle cells. Okay. Now, when the hormone prolactin bind to the alveoli, okay, let me label this also. This is alveoli, this is prolactin. When the prolactin binds to the alveoli, this will produce milk. Okay, the milk is present in alveoli, right? Now the milk can move down and it can be stored in ampulla also. It can be stored in ampulla also, right? Now when the baby suck the nipples of mother, when the baby will suck the nipples of the mother, the stimulus that is given to the nipples through neurons, it will be sent to mother's pituitary. So these are what? Neurons, right? So baby sucks the nipple. So when the baby will suck the nipple, a stimulus will be sent to the neuron and the neuron will be attached to mother's brain. Now which part of the brain? Mother's pituitary. Okay. Which pituitary? Posterior pituitary. Now this posterior pituitary here, let me label this. This posterior pituitary will secrete the hormone oxytocin. Oxytocin is very much important both in parturition, both in milk release. Okay. Now this oxytocin will bind to these muscle. This is oxytocin. Okay. So this is oxytocin. Now oxytocin will bind to these smooth muscle. So smooth muscles will contract. When they will contract, whatever milk is present here, it will move out. Milk moves out. So this is how we say oxytocin plays a very important role in milk let down. So which hormone helps in milk production? Prolactin. Which helps in milk let down? Oxytocin. Okay, I hope that's pretty clear to everyone. So prolactin will produce a milk. Milk will be stored in these structures. Now, when the baby will suck the nipples, the stimulus through neurons will send to the mother's pituitary, posterior pituitary, which will release oxytocin. Now, oxytocin will bind to the smooth muscle, which will contract and throw the milk out from the ducts through the nipples only. Okay. So this is the entire mechanism of the lactation. Now let's move further and read the NCERT. Alright. So let's read the NCERT. The average duration of human pregnancy is about 9 months, which is called the gestation period. So we all know what is a gestation period, the time from fertilization to the delivery. It's total 9 months in human, right? Now, vigorous contraction of the uterus at the end of pregnancy causes expulsion or delivery of the fetus. So whenever female feels contraction, the baby has to move out. This process of delivery of fetus or childbirth is called parturition. Parturition is induced by a complex neuroendocrine mechanism. The signal from parturition originate from fully developed fetus and placenta, which induce mild contraction called fetal ejection reflex. So, this is quite clear. The stimulus for fetal ejection reflex come from fetus, the fully developed fetus and the mother's placenta part of mother. Right? How placenta part, ma'am? You didn't tell us placenta part. Come on. Because the myometrium does the contraction and the signal will be sent through placenta, right? Next, this triggers release of oxytocin from maternal pituitary. So, which hormone will be there? Oxytocin, and from where it will release? Maternal pituitary, not the fetal pituitary. Oxytocin, I'm so sorry, oxytocin acts on the uterine muscle and causes strong uterine contraction, which in turn stimulates further secretion of oxytocin. Once oxytocin is released, it will cause contraction and then it will again stimulate the pituitary to release oxytocin, which will make the contraction more vigorous. The stimulatory reflex between the uterine contraction and oxytocin secretion continues, resulting in the stronger and stronger contraction. So, more the positive reflex will work, the more the stronger contraction will be. This leads to expulsion of baby out of the uterus through birth canal. And what's a birth canal? Vagina and cervix, they together called birth canal. Soon after the infant is delivered, the placenta is also expelled out of the uterus. So, after the birth, the placenta is taken out. What do you think the doctors inject to induce delivery? Sometime in female, the contraction does not got vigorous. So, by that at that time when doctors see the contraction are not getting vigorous, so doctor will inject the hormone known as pitocin. Pitocin is like oxytocin. So, we are giving artificially oxytocin to the female so that if she is not able to produce her more oxytocin, she could get the contraction by its injection, right. Now, the mammary glands of the female undergo differentiation during pregnancy and start producing milk towards the end of pregnancy by the process called lactation. So, the mammary glands are usually prepared during pregnancy and they started producing milk also, okay, and that process is known as lactation. So, differentiation means getting mature, the cells are getting mature, alveoli cells, and for that a lot of hormones are responsible like progesterone, like HPL, like prolactin, right. This helps the mother in feeding the newborn. The milk produced during the initial days of lactation is called colostrum. So, the initial days yellow color milk is colostrum, which contains several antibody, absolutely essential to develop resistance for the newborn baby. To develop resistance means to develop immunity. Breastfeeding during the initial period of infant growth is recommended by doctor for bringing up a healthy baby. So, as I have told you, a mother should definitely feed the baby initial phases importantly. Why? Because that will build the immunity of the fetus. Anyways, let's solve some question, the type of question that are usually asked in the exam. So, the color of the colostrum is yellow. It's a simple basic question, answer 4. The white is the color of after milk. Next, signal for parturition originate from. So, fetal ejection reflex, the stimulus comes from both the placenta only, fully developed fetus only, both placenta as well as fully developed fetus. Oxytocin released from maternal pituitary, very simple, from both placenta and fetus. Next, which hormone causes strong uterine contraction during birth? Oxytocin, LH, FSH, prolactin, very simple. These have no role right now. Whereas this prolactin, it is helping in milk production, whereas milk let down and delivery is due to oxytocin. So, answer is 1. Next, the process of delivery of fetus is called, very simple, implantation is pregnancy where blastocysts get attached, whereas fertilization is fusion of male and female gamete, lactation is production of milk, whereas parturition is delivery of baby. Alright, so that's it about these small little topics, lactation and parturition, and here we have end up with our chapter human reproduction. Now, I would suggest all of you to please wind up this chapter, because in the coming Sunday might be we will be bringing some interesting things for you. So, I just don't want to break that suspense, but I will tell you one thing, that like today like you have completed this topic, just start revising the entire human reproduction chapter, and a surprise is just coming your way on Sunday. So I'll meet you in the next class. Till then, just keep working hard. Bye bye. Take care.